All right, so move on to the next segment. We're going to pivot over here to the world of MMA inside the UFC world. And I'll be sharing my fight summary on the fight that took place yesterday in the main event of UFC 318 between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. So, in the main event of UFC 318, it was Dustin Poirier's final dance, his final professional MMA fight. But he did not go out on a high note. It was Max Holloway that spoiled the plans and successfully retained his BMF title, defeating Dustin Poirier by unanimous decision in the main event of UFC 318. So I'll be sharing my fight summary on that fight. Now, this fight between Dustin Poirier and Max Holloway was another classic in their trilogy. All three fights were special and unique in their own way, but this time it was Max Holloway that got the better of Dustin Poirier, as the series will end with Dustin winning 2 and Max Holloway winning 1 of fights of the trilogy. So the game plan was effective for Max Holloway, and his power was on full display all 5 rounds of this fight. He was winning the striking battle against Dustin Poirier, was outstriking him throughout the fight, and scored the knockdown in the first round. And Max was just the faster fighter, the stronger fighter, more effective fighter. You could say reaction time was better as well, won the counter-punching battle as well, landing punches and flurries, having success throughout the 5 rounds of the fight. And actually, in the fight did go to the ground at times. He had success landing punches on the ground as well. The power was on full display. He did a good job making sure that Dustin Poirier was going. Dustin Poirier did land his shots, but he did a good job defensively, making sure that Dustin Poirier wasn't getting home most of the time, and having his way with the striking abilities and the boxing background that he has, like that happened to him in the first 2 fights. So it was a good game plan for Max Holloway. I did like how the flow of the fight went. This was definitely a very entertaining main event for UFC 318. Now, I also like that Max Holloway fought in different lateral movements, fighting in different lateral movements, making Dustin Poirier work each and every single time to try to chase him down and land some strikes, only for Max Holloway to capitalize on the mistakes that Dustin Poirier was making, and making sure that he was going to pay for landing the counter shots on Dustin. So this was a good game plan by Max Holloway, and Dustin Poirier fought a very good fight as well. I think he did a good job of landing the power punches, landing his effective punches, landing the left hand at times, and having success on the inside as well. I don't blame Dustin for actually covering up in the final 10 seconds. I know Max Holloway wanted to call his shot. Both of them stay in the middle octagon. They go blow for the final 10 seconds. Dustin Poirier made a smart business decision to clinch, because you didn't want to end up viral and going out. You're already going to go out with a loss, but you didn't want to go out laying down in the octagon in a similar way that Max Holloway finished off Justin Gaethje with 1 second to spare at the buzzer beater. Basically a buzzer beater knockout on the UFC 300 card last year. So he made a smart business decision to clinch Max Holloway, and I don't blame him, because I would have did the same thing. So that was a really good fight. But also, you could tell in the stats that Max Holloway actually landed more significant strikes, landed more significant body strikes, and more leg kicks. So I agree with the judges, that the 2 judges that scored the fight 49-46 in favor of Max Holloway. I think that's a fair assumption of how that fight went yesterday. With the win here, Max Holloway remains the BMF champion. I think this title, I'm going to share my opinion on that on a different day, but I think this title is starting to really become special for being the baddest motherfucker. I know it's not acknowledged as a true UFC championship, but there's a lot of prestige and honor that goes into holding this championship. But Max Holloway still remains the BMF champion, and now he's tied second. He's now tied second all time with Charles Oliveira and DC, with the most wins in the UFC history, in the UFC's company's history, with 23 UFC victories. So that's very impressive for Max Holloway that hasn't even touched his late 30s yet. What's next for Max Holloway? I think Max Holloway will climb up the lightweight rankings. I believe he was the 5th ranked contender heading into this fight against Dustin Poirier. I might be wrong on that, but he's definitely going to climb up the UFC lightweight rankings after this victory. There's 2 fights that make sense for Max Holloway next, and No, it's not a rematch with Ilia Topuria for the lightweight championship. I think he needs to earn that opportunity, and I think he needs to have another significant win. A fight against Charles Oliveira makes a lot of sense. These guys fought each other in the past, but I think this fight between Max Holloway and Charles Oliveira would be a very entertaining fight at lightweight. You can put the BMF title on the line as well, or you could have Max Holloway fight Paddy Pimblett next, another hungry contender that I don't think is ready to fight Ilia Topuria next for the lightweight championship. You could have the BMF title on the line as well. So one of those two fights for Max Holloway makes sense. And whether it's Charles Oliveira or Paddy Pimblett, I think it should be one of those two respective opponents next, with the winner getting a title shot against Ilia Topuria in 2026, or whoever the lightweight champion is by 2026. I think those fights make a lot of sense next at lightweight, and maybe like someone like Arman Sarukian or Justin Gaethje gets a crack next at Ilia Topuria for the lightweight championship. But for Dustin Poirier officially heads into retirement. Last night was his last dance. He got the fight in Louisiana, his home grounds, and had Lil Wayne bring him out at his ring walk last night. Now, it is sad to see Dustin Poirier leave the sport, and I don't blame him for walking away. It's better to retire on your own terms rather than letting the sport retire you, if that makes sense to anybody out there watching and listening. A dangerous sport like the MMA, it's rather you walk away on your own terms, rather you walk away very injured, banged up, and you can't really enjoy your money for what you've done in your career. So I don't blame Dustin for walking away. And Dustin finished his career with 30 MMA victories, 16 victories come away of knockout, 7 submission victories. Always fought the best of the best at the lightweight division. Always wanted the squabbles. Always wanted to smoke. The opponents that he's fought at lightweight, he fought Conor McGregor, Jim Miller, Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, Khabib, Islam Makhachev, and Max Holloway. He did not win all those fights, but the fact that you got in the octagon multiple times with these opponents, or one time in the octagon with these opponents, showed that he always wanted to entertain the fans to the full extent that he could. And I think he's one of the greatest fighters to never win a UFC World Championship. I know he became an interim lightweight champion in 2019, defeating Max Holloway the second time, but it's very unfortunate that this man never became a world champion. And I think Dustin Poirier has a spot waiting for him in the UFC Hall of Fame. Absolutely phenomenal career by Dustin Poirier as he signs off for his UFC career. But that is my fight summary on the fight that took place last night between Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier.